Got it. I think this is going to be the first time I remember to take off that.
I think we're
Take off my
live.
microphone. Yes, we are. Hey, Edward Myers. Hey, Ed, how you doing? Let's see. So, today I am interviewing Mitch. Let's see. I'm going to go to Edward. Let's see. I'm going to go in here. Edward Myers. You know what, Edward Myers? You look just like Ed, the lunatic flyer.
It is.
I know. I know. You look so similar, and I gotcha. Mason Kaiser, how are you doing? So good to see you. Jim, hey, you know what? I found something I may need you to print for me. It's something that they sell for my, for this. We're going to have to talk. Anyway, guys, tonight I am interviewing the old guy in a drone, Mitch, and he is fascinating. I've been looking at his videos today. We have a ton to talk about. And so I'm just going to go ahead and bring him up on the screen and present him. There you go, Mitch. You say hi.
Hey, I provide my own sound effects, Val. But wait, my lawyer says I got to start with my disclaimer, so let me do that.
Limited time offer. No purchase necessary. Offer valid at participating locations. Void where prohibited. No animals were harmed during the production of this soundboard. Subject to change without notice. Side effects include dry mouth, occasional pig snort or two, sore stomach, teary eyes, achy jaws, and whatever tingles well. Laughing hard.
Okay. Got the legalities out of the way.
Hey, Michael Fanny.
That drives Philly Mike. That drives him crazy. I do it just
I
to
love
annoy
it.
him.
I love it. So Roger's in the house. He's my in-house mod today. Yes, I present Roger so you can see he's there. And he has his Canadian Hub t-shirt on. Looking good, Roger. It's looking really good. So, Ryan, how you doing? So I'm going to go ahead. Mike Roach.
Mike Roach. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Mike.
Were your ears burning, Mike? Val and I were just talking about you.
Yes. I was talking about how good looking you were when you were a teenager. No, sorry.
I can't get over the women that he had flocking around him in Hawaii. Remember that?
I'm just, that's just, hey, how you doing? Suko Song Ken, how you doing? So I am so glad to see everyone in the house today. And I'm good. Mr. Doughboy, hi. I've been thinking about you today. Thinking about what we can do about those videos, getting everything going. So we're going to work on it. Oh, Lala, what are you saying, Val? I don't know. I'm still lost after that really late channel thing we did yesterday. So I'm going to start with Mitch right now because I want to respect his time and yours. How come you have a monkey? I saw that in another video.
It's my monkey. That's my monkey. I have forgotten to put him in there, so I thought
look at that.
People are almost used to seeing the monkey whenever they see me.
See, I was seeing him in your thing, and I was just like, they say couples do better on these live streams, and I'm just wondering a little bit about your beautiful, beautiful significant other. Yeah, hey, monkey.
Well, Roger's got a pet. You got a pet. I need to have.
Right.
But my pet is great. Doesn't make any noise. Doesn't make a mess. Doesn't eat anything. It's terrific.
Oh,
and if I want him to go to bed, I can just make him go to bed. Just that easy.
Oh wow! And he's cute.
It's
very cute.
It's a video loop. A 1.5-minute video loop on a green screen.
Oh my God.
That I downloaded and it was a copyright free thing. So I downloaded it and put it in there and I get a kick out of it.
I'm just a monkey man. Ed is saying.
Peter Carroll. Hiya, Peter. How are you? Peter from Australia is in the house.
I am on top chat again. I am so sorry. Hey, Peter. and this is one of yours. I'm going to go ahead and mod him because you know him. Yes.
Oh God, yes. Peter
Yes.
was one of my first subscribers way
Oh,
back before,
nice. Hi,
before
Peter.
anybody ever heard of me, which is the very few people that have.
Yeah, but you're doing pretty good. Well, we'll talk about that. Monkeys usually throw their poop at me. Oh, Mr. Dope Boy. You behave, monkey. You behave. He's just, yeah, maybe. So I was looking at all your stuff, and I want to talk about that. But the first thing I want to talk about is where you were raised, where you were born. Can you give us an idea of what that was?
I started out as a child.
Oh, good, because I was worried. Because with the monkey and all, I had concerns.
That's my favorite. That's one of my old favorite Bill Cosby lines. You remember Bill Cosby? Yeah,
Yes.
I started out as a child. I'm from Philadelphia.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Which is that's my old hometown. I was born in Philly 1,000 years ago, and went through the Revolution and the Constitution. I was there, as I'm old. But no, born and raised in Philly, went to school in Philly. And in 1966, I was in college at the time, going to Temple University, studying useless liberal arts stuff, and had no idea what I wanted to do. So I just decided, you know what, it was during the Vietnam era. I said, I'm going to just go in the military, put in a few years, and see the world a little bit. And I went into the Army and spent 4 years in the Army, went all over the Middle East and Europe, was stationed in Germany, Turkey. It was great. Had a great time, learned a lot, saw a lot, and then got back out of the Army in 1970. So, and while I was in the Army, my father retired, and he was a pharmacist. He had a drugstore in Philly, and he sold a drugstore, and he moved to Florida. So when I got out of the Army, Florida was home. So
oh, wow.
I came to Florida. I've been here since 1970. So I'm a Floridian now. It's over 50. Well, it is. It's almost 60. Jesus, how old am I? 50 years.
We'll just say you're about my age. Well, no, you might be a little bit older than me.
I'm a lot older than you, Val. You're a baby. You're a baby.
Yeah, I'm 60, so
I'm 70. I'm 72.
Okay.
Yeah.
Young enough. As the older I
years.
get, the younger that sounds.
Yeah, I know, doesn't it? And I figure when I turn like 85, I'm going to have to change the name of my channel to an older guy in a drone. And then when I turn 100, I'm going to have to change it to the oldest guy in a drone. Yeah, I'm ready for that. I'm ready to do that.
Hey, Nomadic, how you doing? Nice to see you. So you went to Florida. And so what was that like for you back? It was back in like the early 70s, right? That you were in Florida?
Right. Actually, while I was in the Army, stationed in Germany, I met my first wife. She was a California girl working for the USO as a librarian. And
oh, wow.
She was about 30 miles in southern Germany from where I was stationed. So I went, I had my little car over there, and we hooked up and got married in Germany. And when I came back to the States, they moved me to Northern Virginia, to a place called Vin Hill Farm Station, which is about 40 miles west of DC, in a town called Gainesville. It was outside of Gainesville. It was Warrenton, Virginia, between Gainesville and Warrenton on Interstate 60. Right at the end at the time was the end of Interstate 66. And that was about 10, 15 miles past Manassas, Virginia. Now that whole area now is Washington, DC metropolitan area. But back then it was still country. And I spent about the last 6 months of my Army career up there. And while I was up there, I decided to use my GI Bill to get a pilot's license. And so I really did it. I really accelerated it. In 6 months' time, I got my private license. I got a commercial license, an instrument rating, a multi-engine rating, and a flight instructor certificate and an
Wow.
instrument flight instructor certificate. So 6 months after I started learning how to fly airplanes, I actually took a part-time job as a flight instructor when I first got out of the Army in 1970. And my goal at the time was I wanted to be an airline pilot. But you had to have a lot of time, a lot of flight hours, which I didn't have. I was building them, and flight instructing is a great way to build time, just like live streams are a great way to build hours. But it wasn't happening fast enough, and the economy went to hell, and all these hotshot young Air Force pilots were coming out of the Army at the time, and they all had 30,000 hours of heavy transport time, or jet fighter pilots.
Right.
And here's old Mitch with 500 hours in little Piper 140s and Cessna 172s, and even if there were airline jobs at the time, I never would have qualified up against all of these military trained guys. So I gave that up. I decided, well, no pilot for me. And that's when we decided, the wife and the young baby I had, my son Mike, and we moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, where my parents lived.
So you were up in more of, you went a little bit up north, Northern Virginia, Manassas area, because those are my old stomping grounds.
Oh, well, then you know where the airport is of Manassas.
Mhm.
And did the name Chuck Colgan mean anything to you?
Not that I would remember, but I tell you, I didn't move I was in Maryland, and my dad lives over in Virginia, and by Frederick.
Yeah. Okay.
And my brother lives out that way, and my sister is still up in Maryland.
Well, it was a great place. It was a great place to learn how to fly.
And it was.
And Chuck, because it's gorgeous, you have the Blue Ridge Mountains right there, and you go out towards Culpeper, and it was just a gorgeous place. And you had Dulles International Airport, where I used to take students to practice big time airport operations, landing at a big time airport.
Well, I will tell you something. When Dulles first came in, we thought it was a big airport, but they have built that thing to be a monster airport now.
It was crazy, and I love the little mobile lounges, the little buses.
Right.
and I actually had my only in-flight emergency. The only time in all my flying career that I actually lost an engine in a single engine plane, right over the top of Dulles International Airport, and I was personally responsible for shutting that airport down for the better part of 45 minutes. While I circled around with my tiny little puddle jumper to land on the end of one of these 2.5 mile long runways that they have there, and that was so I'll never forget that airport. That was
yeah. My dad was flying in was it the right before the probably mid 70s? He had a Cessna, I think it was. And he did flying, but we were in Montgomery Village at the time, Gaithersburg, Maryland. And so he was flying around there. And he took me up and forgot to put on the landing lights. I didn't go up with him again, but I told him, good luck with it, Dad. Because he had been in the Air Force.
Oh,
so
yeah. Great place to fly. I used to run up to a place called Kutztown, Pennsylvania. And they had glider operations. And I took a few glider, lessons. I thought I might want to get my glider rating, but it wasn't. I never followed through with it, but I did get to fly a couple of flights and gliders up there.
So now you have a wife. You have a little boy, Michael. My first son is Michael. That's a popular name maybe for first boys. and then what? You said your first wife, so I'm assuming that somehow ended.
Yeah, as they usually do.
yeah.
I've had two. How many have you had, Val?
Three.
Okay. Well,
I'm going for the win.
I stopped at two, and now when you get married, I got married young, and yeah, my son will be he'll be 40. He'll be 49 this year. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So and I have a daughter. But my son was born in Prince William County, in Virginia, and
Yep.
and he was a baby when we moved down here, and then we moved down here, and I started in adventures of trying to figure out what in the world I was going to do with my life. So it was kind of a lost period where I went from this job to that job to the other job. I tried selling insurance. I tried those stuff, and then one day I got a job as a swimming pool salesman.
Oh, I want
And-
a swimming pool.
I could sell you one.
Oh,
but not anymore. Anyway, I got a job and the place was in Clearwater, Florida, and it was a small operation. And turns out I had the talent to, for some reason, I don't know where I get all these things I learned how to do without anybody teaching me, but I learned stuff. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I learned things and I learned fast. So I learned how to design swimming pools. And I, of course, had my share of drafting classes, and I know how to work the French curves and all the triangles. And I started selling swimming pools and became in a big hurry the head salesman in the company. And I started making a pretty good bit of money. And then I ended up as one of the partners in this business.
Oh, nice.
And we were doing real well. And the story of my life and the changes that I've had to go through and the number of different times I've had to start over have always seems to me, and I told this my whole life story on one of the live streams, but you missed it. So I'll go over the highlights of it.
Oh,
here.
you know what? We just pretend that never happened.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
The world changes around you. And I'm not the only one that's had this happen to me. How many people worked 40 years for a company and lost their pension? How many people, and most of us, Val, we sit saying to ourselves, this isn't what I had in mind. When we get to this point, this is not what I had in mind. And I think that probably is true for most people. Because,
I would think so.
Because the world so you can do one of two things. You can just brush yourself up. What the songs say, brush yourself off and start all over again.
Right.
But you still can't help but be a little angry and a little bitter about these things. And what killed us in the swimming pool business was Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter became president. And if you remember that economy, and you remember
I remembered the long gas lines. I remember everything kind of tanked.
Remember the interest rates when they went up to 20-something%? Nobody was going to borrow money to build a swimming pool at those kind of interest rates. And the number of people that were paying cash for pools was only maybe 10 or 15% of the people that bought them.
Right.
Well, that was the end of the swimming pool business. So I found myself once again trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I had, by this time, I had my daughter. So I had a wife and 2 kids. And my wife worked, which really got us through.
Are we still on wife number 1?
Wife number 1. And she was a technical librarian and worked for a big electronics company. That helped us through. And I went looking to figure out what I wanted. But I have always, in the Army, I was an electronics technician. And I worked on very complicated, high-end cryptographic type of electronics. I was in what they called the Army Security Agency, which was kind of like a military offshoot of the NSA. And our job was, I can talk about it now because it's been so long, but I had a top secret clearance, and it was all about eavesdropping on everybody and anybody around the world. And that's what we did. So I had an electronics background, and I have always been fascinated by computers because while I was in the Army, we started installing some of these early computer systems into. I'm having a technical problem here for some stupid reason.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just say hi to some people in the
Yeah,
chat.
go ahead. Go ahead. I just have something that should be
Hey,
charged.
Syntax, how you doing? Hugh. Oh, I love seeing you here. Thank you. Nanya, Ra, Wonder, welcome. Let's see who else we have. Gerald Farms, nice seeing you. Carpenter Rick, hey. Let's see. We have, of course, we have Roger, our in-house mod. Yeah, you are Wonder. Oh, it's so nice seeing you. Edward, of course, Ed. I won't tell you who he reminds me of, but might be Ed. Furballs here. Syntax.
Hey,
German
everybody.
Out Northwest. Hey, how you doing? Louis P. Floyd.
Louis.
Whoop.
And
Let's
Hugh
see,
is here.
Michael.
And
Michael
hello,
Bainey.
everybody.
You guys are great. Mr. Doughboy. Mr. Doughboy's. And you know what? If I missed anyone, I apologize. Certainly it's not intentional. I am in live chat instead of in top chat. So are you ready?
Anyway, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so I've always been fascinated by computers, and right back in the is when we're talking about the late 70s by now.
Okay.
And Apple had just come out. You had Commodore 64s, and you had all the beginnings of the personal computer. And I was right there, and I loved that stuff. And it was a great hobby for me. I had two hobbies: model airplanes. I always flew model airplanes, and I loved the computers. So, like I always ended up doing, I had to learn everything there was to learn. And actually, I managed to teach myself how to program these things, both at machine code level in assembly language. And at the time, they all were using the basic programming language. And then Radio Shack came out with their computers, and they came out with a Model 1, which was a nice, fun computer. But then they came out with a Model 2. And the Model 2, I don't know if most of the kids today aren't old enough to remember these things, but it used the big 8-inch floppy disks, and it was a monster powerful computer compared to the Model 1. And it even had a hard drive available for you. You could buy, and I bought.
Right.
I actually bought a gargantuanly huge 10 megabyte hard drive for $5,000.
Oh,
honest to God. And it was in a big cabinet, and I had one. 10 megabytes. That's not even half the size of a cell phone picture anymore.
Oh my God. Yep.
And I bought one, 5,000. Boy, I'd love to have that $5,000 back right now. But anyway, I had one of those. I had a Model 2, and I had a big setup, and I started learning to write programs in a language called Ryan McFarland Basic. And I would go into the Radio Shacks. They had business centers. They started to come up with business centers, and they were trying to get businesses to use these computers. And they wouldn't do anything. They had spreadsheet, Lotus 1, 2, 3, and they had a word processor. Right. That was about it. So I said, I'm going to try my hand at writing a few things. And the guy at the Radio Shack Center says, well, we got this church, and this church said they'll buy these computers if there was some software that they could use to run their church, keep track of their books, keep track of their membership. I said, hey, no problem. That one phrase has gotten me in more trouble in my life, Val. Right. No problem. No problem.
How hard could it be?
No problem.
That's what I say. How hard could it be?
So I did it. I actually wrote, I call it a church management system. I actually wrote one. I don't know where in the world it came from. And that's what happens with strange head is this stuff just appears there. And I wrote it and it worked and they liked it and the church bought it and I got paid for writing this software. And then the Radio Shack computer, I was living in St. Petersburg at the time and I was already like 12, 13 years into this marriage that wasn't working out too well for me. Not that, and I don't want to get too deeply personal about it. It's just, you know, you marry young and you grow apart, and she was a wonderful person, but it just didn't work between us anymore. And all of a sudden I'm living in near St. Pete, Florida. And the Radio Shack people, it got around that this guy has software that helps us sell computers. So I get a call from the Radio Shack Computer Center in Orlando. So I jump in my car, I drive to Orlando and talk to them. And next thing I know, I got customers all over the place. I got customers, furniture stores in Leesburg. I got churches all over Orlando, and I'm doing real well with this. And that's how I got into the computer business. Totally by accident. And, you know, that's the way, that's like I say, you can't plan stuff like this, you know, it just happens to you. So, and the long story short, I ended up getting divorced and most of my business was in Central Florida in the Orlando area. So I moved to Orlando and started the next chapter of my life. That's what.
And right about that time, Disney World was being built.
Yeah, they had just opened.
Yeah, because I headed down when I was 18. I was in Maryland, living in Maryland, and I drove down there. There was a lot going on. But then also, we started heading into all the computers starting, you know, because the first computer I used was the IBM Junior. My sister was teaching me how to do some programming because I moved to San Diego and that was in the 80s and I wanted to get a job in computers and I knew nothing. I think the first day on the job working in computers, I went to the bathroom. I just kept throwing up because I thought they're going to find out I know nothing. But evidently they didn't find out, not for a long time.
Oh, I've played that card many times, Val. You know, you're the expert, and they don't know any different.
It was, you know, you have to do because that was the year my dad worked for IBM since the time he came out of the Air Force up. I think it was up into the 80s, and then he started his own company, and he was in Germany working. And teaching people. So there was a lot of stuff going on with computers at that time. So if you didn't get into computers, you were kind of missing out on some of the growth opportunity.
Yeah, and leave it to me to get to decide that this, you know, that I saw the handwriting on the wall. The industry was growing too fast. Software packages were coming out left, right, and center that were sold. I certainly couldn't afford to do anything. IBM was starting to become dominant.
Oh yeah.
And I said, this is a flash in the pan with this Radio Shack thing. So I need to do something else. Now, right about this time, I met my second wife and got married. And she decided that she wanted to have a big house. And so we bought a piece of land in Lake Mary, in Lake Mary, Florida. And I decided that I didn't need to hire a contractor. How hard could it be? I built swimming pools. I built swimming pools. I
built a house.
So I'm just gonna build this house here, and I ended up building a friggin' mansion. I mean, this thing was nothing could be too big or too expensive for my second wife. So I built this big house and I hired an architect, and it was fabulous. It was a beautiful house. It had a 2-story with glass walkways, and the master bedroom was like 35 feet long, and it was crazy house. And back then, you know, it it only cost me about 300,000 to build. It would cost 2 million to build today. But
Oh, sure.
so I built this house, and the next thing I know, people are looking at my house, wondering, how do I get a house like this? And I said, no problem.
Right.
So I went and got myself a general contractor's license.
Why not?
Why not? Studied, took the test. I had the building experience from the swimming pool business. You had to have some kind of experience. And damn, if I didn't get myself a Class A general contractor's license in the state of Florida, which qualified me to build anything from bridges to skyscrapers.
Oh, jeez.
And
Oh, jeez.
so now I'm a home builder. And I started building houses, and I built some spec houses. And this was now in the mid 80s by this time. So I'm building houses, and this area around Lake Mary where I was living was growing like crazy. And a fellow named Gino Palucci, who was Chungking Foods, sold that, you've heard of Gino's Pizza Rolls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
Gino Palucci. Fabulous.
Yeah. If you live on the East Coast, you know,
Yeah,
Gino
fabulous.
Pizza Rolls.
Really wealthy guy. He bought this huge piece of land up there, which is now an area called Heathrow, Florida, which is in the northern. It's just north of Orlando on the way to Daytona Beach, but closer to Orlando. It's the Orlando metropolitan area, and he built this thing called Heathrow, which was billed as a millionaires type thing. Huge houses, fabulous country club. It was really gorgeous, the landscaping. And I got approved as a builder in Heathrow, and they couldn't sell us empty lots, and the banks couldn't loan us money fast enough to build spec houses, because everybody was convinced that the market was there for this stuff. And I'm talking about houses back in those days that were 900,000, $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.5 million.
And we're talking, right? Are we talking the mid 80s?
Yeah, we're talking mid 86, 87,
When everything
just
was
before
getting ready to
right,
go.
just before the big crash. And here's Mitch right there again, like I was when interest rates went up in a business, and all of a sudden the bottom fell out of it. And
Yep.
You remember the savings and loan crisis? Well, those were
Yeah.
all the banks that I owed all this money to, and they couldn't sell. I had so many unsold spec houses, and the overhead on those, it just couldn't keep up with it. And that was it. Boom, gone.
Yep.
So here I am, lost all my money again. Moved out of my house, had to give it back to the bank back then. And you know, you can't plan on this stuff. And the problem is if you're stupid like me and or brave, or you gotta be. I'm not a gambler. That's the funny thing.
Wow.
I can't gamble at a crap table, but I'm gambling with millions of dollars based on somebody else's performance, being able to fulfill their promises that they had them waiting in line to buy these houses. So at any rate, long story. And I find myself driving a 1977 Plymouth Volare that belonged to my father, who had gotten too old to drive. And that was the car I'm driving that. I rented a house for us to live in, and I found myself starting over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here I was starting over again. And
how old were you at this point?
I was in my, how old would I have been at the end of the 80s? 40 years old. 40. I was born in 1947. This was about 88 and 80. Yeah, I was in my early 40s at the time. So I was still young enough, but I wasn't a builder anymore. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, right about this time, IBM was really starting to sell these personal computers, and you could go into any computer land store anywhere, and you could pay $6,000 for an IBM 286 AT with a small hard drive.
I had a 286,
but you pay big bucks for this. And this was before Michael Dell, before Compaq, before any of them. People were the Chinese were selling parts, because that's where all the parts were made anyway, in Taiwan. The same parts that IBM used to build their computers all came from China. So these Chinese they decided they're just going to sell them. And I'll never forget this. There was a guy, his name was Mohammed. He was an Indian or Pakistani, and he opened up a little store in Orlando, in Altamont Springs, and he sold computer pieces and parts. And when he first got started, he had this store, and it was pretty much empty. He had a couple of little bookshelves, and he had like 3 motherboards, 3 hard drives, 3 floppy drives, 3 power
Right.
supplies. Yeah. So people were running, it was amazing. People were running ads in the Orlando Sentinel at the time. They had a deal. If you're selling something, not a business, just a personal thing, you could get 3 lines in the classifieds. That's something that people don't do anymore. But there was no internet back then. There was no eBay. There was nothing. You had classifieds in the newspaper.
Right.
3 lines, 3 days, $10. I said, what a deal. And I saw that you'd see the ad, you'd look in their computers, and it said 286 clone, so much 10 megabyte hard drive, so much memory, $2,700, $3,200, about half the price of what the real IBMs cost. So I said to myself, I can do this. No problem. I need to do something. So I took a spare bedroom in my house and I set up a couple of card tables, and I went to Muhammad and I bought 4, enough to build 4 computers. And I built them. I built them myself, put them together. I had no problem doing that. I got them working and put the little ad in the paper and sold the 4 computers in a couple of days, and made myself about $5,000 in profit.
Oh, nice.
Like 3
Okay,
days.
hold on just a minute, Mitch. I'm going to
Sure.
go back and say hello. Roger's reminding me. Hey, Russ, how you doing? Furball's in the house. Michael Banny, above and beyond. Yeah, wasn't it crazy? Yeah, when the houses went belly up, it was hard for everyone. Hey, Ed's still in the house. We have Drone Pool. Hey, Drone Pool, are you working, or are you finally gotten home? Let's see. Nanya just got a Mobila 7, didn't you? Fast little drone. Okay, if I'm forgetting anyone, again,
And Hodges droning about Northwest is in here. Love my
Yes.
drones.
Russ,
Hi, everybody.
Russ, we had so much fun last night. That was so much fun. A good profit. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
So hey, Chris Hope. So the first computer I built was a 286. I had a 286 motherboard. My dad came and visited me. I think at the time, I had just moved up to Idaho, and so he helped me put together a 286 so I'd have a computer, because we could tell it was coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when I first moved to Idaho, I had to completely redo everything. And I went into sales, and computers just became the very hot item. And I was selling typewriters. Now, I sold more typewriters, I think, than anybody in the area. I was good at sales when it came to, going out and cold calling and selling stuff. But yeah, it was kind of like selling hairbrushes to people who didn't have hair.
Refrigerators to Eskimos. Yeah.
Right. It was a little bit difficult, but I was able to do it. But yeah. So those were quite the days. So
Yeah.
did your marriage get through those difficult times and the selling of the house?
Yeah. The one thing I really, it hurts. It's too much grief for me to talk about my second marriage, so I won't.
No, that's okay. That's
yeah,
okay.
The damage that marriage did to me was.
So it
yeah.
ended.
Yeah. It ended in 2014.
2014.
No, 2004. Excuse me, 2004.
Okay.
Yeah, almost 15 years now, and
Okay.
a lot of tragedy there, and just
Even your little monkey looks sad.
yeah, took me a good 5 years to get my life back after that. So anyway,
Yeah.
back to the happier times. So anyway, I'm going to shorten this up so we can talk about drones and other things. But
Oh yeah, we want to do that, but let me down just for a minute, because I just gotta. So you reinvented yourself. You were selling pools. You went into you were flying, you were selling pools. Then you went into somehow you went into construction and programming computers and houses when you're doing
I built
houses.
houses. Yeah, I built big houses.
Oh my God. So you are continually, and on the East Coast, my brother's like that.
Is
Just
he?
continually, it all goes up and he goes into something else. Build, build, build. That crashes out. He goes into something else. You really have to have that entrepreneur. What do they call it?
Entrepreneurial spirit. I
You
do.
have to have it. You have to have it to be able to do.
I do, because you can't plan. You could not plan
No, you
a
cannot.
life like what I have. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a picture here now. If you can see it. This is a picture of me and my son who worked for me at my computer company.
Hey,
And I'm going to tell you what this little company grew into. So I started building these things and selling them out of my spare bedroom, and I started making money like I had never made before. It was unbelievable how much
even
profit.
through all your other stuff.
Yeah,
you've
I mean,
done.
I started making money like crazy, trying to figure out what to do with it. And the people that bought these computers, I had a pretty good philosophy in business, and my philosophy was don't ever gouge the customer. Give them
Right.
the best deal you can give them to make it worth my while to do, and back it up. And I used to give a lifetime guarantee with these computers, and I would fix anything, no matter what happened to it, no matter how much time it took me. And I started to get customers that were loyal to me, and my pricing was fair. And all of a sudden, I started getting these same people who bought the computer for their house would come to me and say, we need 5 computers for where I work. No problem. I said, no problem. And one day, there's a religious organization in Orlando called the Campus Crusade for Christ. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
They work with college kids. They're a big mission. I mean, huge national, maybe even international organization. And I had sold a couple of computers to some of the people that worked there. And I get a call one day. Remember, I'm still working out of my house. And she says to me, we need 500 computers.
Oh, geez.
Now think about this, 500 computers at $3,000 a piece. It's $1.5 million. No, it's not $1.5 million. How much is it? 500 times 3,000. Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's $1.5 million. It was over $1 million. Anyway, what did I say? No problem.
Right. How hard could it be to
How
build?
hard could it be? I panicked. I said, okay. So the first thing I did, I said, this is ridiculous. I can't, this has turned into a real business now. I can't keep running this out of the Hip National Bank and out of my house. I need it. So I went out to an office place and I rented some office space. I went and I made some arrangements with some suppliers. I borrowed some money from the bank, and back in those days, financially, you could do things that you could never do today.
Yeah, you can't do
Yeah.
that. Right.
And I managed to build and deliver 500 computers to this organization, and they were just happy as could be. They loved it, and they became a steady customer of mine. And then I started hiring people, and I hired a guy to be my vice president who came from Lake County and worked at the school system and the colleges out there. And he acquired for our company all of this entire county government and school district business. And this is now about the time when the schools are starting, the internet is starting to come out.
That's
The
right.
schools are starting to wire up for the internet. And we were there and we got it. And one county led to another. And before I knew it, I had 13 counties, all kinds of cities, police departments, governments. I had, umpteen employees, paying them. I had employees I was paying $80,000 to $100,000 a year, trained network technicians. And this thing grew. and grew into a monster. And yet I never made, I don't think I ever made as much money as I did the first year working out of the bedroom in my house.
Right.
Because the overhead was there. And Dell comes along and Computerland and Best Buy comes along and this comes along. And you know how technology is like a death spiral. You got to do more and more and more to make less and less and less. And every time you have to do more and more and more, you got to spend more and more. But we managed to stay ahead of the curve. And the only problem about growing a business into something large is everybody wants your piece of it. So the local, there was politicians out there who had friends that were in the computer business that decided that they were going to get my business away from the county for their friends. And I started to get attacked politically with these schools. And it was the most unfair, horrible thing that I've ever lived through. But I survived. And the way I survived, at the time, the school systems were starting to dictate that they buy what they call tier one. Tier one was Compaq, IBM, Dell, the big companies. They didn't want clones anymore, even though my clones were basically made out of the same parts.
Yes.
The politics of it. So I found myself going up against Compaq on a lot of bids, and I had the customers. They were my customers. So I had to, if you can't beat them, join them. So I had to, or else I would have lost everything. I had to align myself with Compaq, and I signed with them as what they called a certified education partner, because by this time, most of my business was education, hardware education, network infrastructure, stuff like that. And I became a Compaq partner, and we did well. We did well with Compaq. we maintained our level. It was easier for me to do it because I didn't have to build them anymore. Compaq fronted all the money. Compaq built the computers. They paid me a commission, which was pretty much equal to the profit I was making anyway. So while my cash flow went way down, my profit went up, and I was pretty happy about it. And then along comes Her Highness Carly Fiorina and the Hewlett Packard Corporation, and they buy Compaq Computer. And this is why
I'm going to tell you something, because Hewlett Packard has a place in my heart. Their main headquarters is up the street from me, where they started, the Hewlett Packard brothers. And the brothers,
that was a test equipment company.
Let me tell you, the brothers were great. They had ethics. Carly Fiorina came in, and we saw all kinds of crazy stuff happening in our town and all the other towns where Hewlett Packard was placed.
Well, it happened.
That was a disaster.
It happened in my town because Hewlett Packard came in and decided right off the bat they didn't want any dealers. They were going to deal direct with all these government things. And then within 6 months, my entire business and my entire life and all my money went away again because of what Hewlett Packard did to me. I sued them. I had actually I had the same lawyer that Al Gore hired in the year 2000.
Right.
I mean, Gerald Richmond down in West Palm, the biggest of big time lawyers, actually took my case on a contingency. I didn't even have to pay them because I paid the costs, but that was less than 50 grand by the time we got done. We lost 2.5 years, and we lost because the judges had to be corrupt. There's no way. And they told me when it was all over after fighting this thing that the judge said there's no way that if everybody obeyed the law in this thing that you would have lost this case. But you start playing in that league, just like politics today. Whether you're right or wrong doesn't matter. It's who has the most money. And Hewlett Packard had the most money in that case. And it was ugly. It was ugly. And that's when my second marriage finally went to hell.
Right.
When all the money went away again.
Well, I got to tell you, with Carly, she started trying to send things overseas, and what a big mess that was for our state down here.
It was terrible.
Idaho. It was terrible. She was the worst thing to ever happen
Yep.
that I could
And then
think
she
of.
wanted to run for president. I saw
Oh, yeah,
her.
because
I
we need
saw her,
more
and
of
I
that
went nuts.
joy.
I mean, I went nuts. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Anyway, that was the end of my computer company. So here I am again. I'm still in my mid 50s. I'm still not I was 56, 57. This was in the year 2004. And I said, now what? Now I'm 57 years old. I have no money anymore. I had a bunch of stuff, but I had to sell everything just to keep living, and
Right.
tried to keep the company going, and that was a mistake I made. I poured tons of money to keep the employees employed, tried to reinvent my company, but I had a niche, and the technology business became a cut rate, discount, Best Buy. There was no place for me in it.
Right.
So I said, now what? Well, I didn't give up. As the computer business was, I saw the writing on the wall, and it was winding down, and I was laying off employees. And right before the last day, I actually ended up by myself in the office before I shut it down. I made a business plan. Yet again, I decided
Right.
I'm going to build a chain of restaurants.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Because the restaurant
That's logical. I
business
mean, wouldn't
got
anybody?
really easy.
Right.
I
Wouldn't
did it
anybody
so
at that point in
easy.
life, after going broke in a home building business and getting blown out of the, wouldn't the next logical step be a restaurant? Well, there was a method to my madness. One of the guys that I flew model jets with, and that was my hobby, turbine powered model airplanes. A lot of the guys who've watched my live streams have actually seen a lot of some of the videos of some of the jets that I had, but his name was Francis, and Francis was a great jet pilot, lived in Naples. So, and he had a couple of restaurants in Naples called Grouper and Chips,
Oh,
fish and chips joint, but he was a hell of a chef, and the food, I'd look for excuses to drive from Orlando to Naples, haul in the trailer full of jets, because we used to fly at the Immokalee Airport down there, and then right to the restaurant to eat that food. Grouper sandwiches and fried shrimp this big, and they made sauteed grouper with pasta and a lemon beurre blanc. It was food to die for. And he was doing really well. They would wait. He had a small little restaurant with about 50 seats. They waited for 2 hours to get into that place.
oh my
It
God.
was that good. And I said to him, Francis, I said, these things would absolutely kill in Orlando. We need to do this. So I still had a bunch of friends with a bunch of money, and I put together a whole business plan, and I rounded up a bunch of investors to raise, because I didn't have the money anymore. But they all knew me. They knew that I wasn't trying to fleece anybody, that this thing really had a shot. And I went looking for 10 locations over 5 years. And that was my plan. I was going to build a 10 restaurant chain, sell it for $20 million, and hit the road and retire.
Why not?
I thought that, it had a chance of working, had 2008 not come along when the economy crashed yet again. And I could talk for 3 hours about how I got screwed over in the restaurant business by the people that rented me the commercial real estate and everything else. But to make a really long story short, I managed to keep the first restaurant open for 2 years, lost money. And because of the real estate crisis and the economy crisis in 2008, none of the stuff that was supposed to materialize around my restaurant happened. The big condos, the lakefront stuff. I ended up in a restaurant with no parking lot, because it was a field that was supposed to be a 500 unit upscale lakefront condo with multi-level parking, deeded to the retail space in this fabulous new high-end community built by the same people that built a Celebration and half of Disney. I mean, it was supposed to be big time, and the whole thing fell through. And we were out there by ourselves, and the business was horrible. And in 2009, I shut the doors and walked away again. And
Oh my God.
at that point, Val, and I'm not looking for tears or sympathy. I don't want to turn this into a crying fest.
Oh
but
no.
it's close,
Oh,
really
yeah.
close, so close that my children were really concerned about me. So my son says, "Hey, Pop, you need to move over here." And it just so happened they had bought this house on the river that they intended to move into later on. He said, "We got this house, rent it from us. Help me out, make the payments on it." I said, "Deal." So I moved over to where I am in 2011 and lived over there on the river. Beautiful place. I mean, it was a great life. Had a dock out back and right on the Intercoastal Waterway, and I was living like a billionaire again. And it took me, and then all of a sudden, I found myself in the cigar business. Yeah, and now I'm in the cigar business. Because I smoke cigars, I love cigars, and the guy was like, "Why not?" I mean, that's the next logical
Why
step
not?
after,
Right,
after
that
being
is.
a pool builder, a home builder, a computer guy, and then a
Restaurant,
restaurant
cigars,
guy.
it all
The
goes
next
together.
logical step, of course, is anybody knows that is to go into the cigar business. So the guy that I was buying my cigars from, I met him at a little cigar show over in Tampa. He had a little booth, and he's selling these cigars in bundles of 25, and he's selling cigars that normally you'd pay $200-300 for a bundle of 25 good cigars. He's selling them for $30. I said, "This just can't be right." So I bought some from him, and turns out they were really good. And I said, "This is terrific." He's got a cousin or somebody that owns a cigar factory in the Dominican Republic, and he gets these things. His name was Silvio Palomino. He's a Cuban that moved here when he was a kid. He was like 60 years old now, and his most of his family moved to the Dominican Republic, and Silvio moved here and actually grew up here in Melbourne, and they moved down to West Palm area. And Silvio, he's always wanted to be in the cigar business. So he opened a cigar store down there in West Palm Beach, which went the way of my restaurant, and he lost everything and lost a lot of money, but he still had, tons of cigars, and he's trying to unload these cigars. And so I'm up here in Cocoa area, and he's down there in West Palm Beach, and I need cigars. And turns out I call him up and I say, "I need some cigars. Send me some." He says, "I'm on my way up to a cigar show up in Georgia. I'll be going right by your place." I said, "Fine. Meet you at the 7-Eleven at the exit on I-95. If you've ever seen anything like two old guys doing a drug deal, this was Silvio and me.
In my head.
Yeah. Pulls up, opens the trunk. I take the stuff. I give him some cash. And he says to me, he says, "Would you like to go to work selling cigars?" "No problem," I said. "I could do that." Why not?
Why not?
Well, one thing led to another, and turns out that selling cigars to Silvio was not the way to go. But being his partner, on the other hand, was the way to go, because I knew how to sell stuff, and I knew how to make websites, and I knew how to do all that stuff that he didn't know. He knew how to make cigars. So I said, "Okay, here's the deal, Silvio. You and I are partners, 50-50, right down the middle. I'll develop the website. I'll monitor it. I'll do all the shipping. I'll handle the business. You just make sure you bring those cigars in," because he had the license to import tobacco products, which is not an easy license to get. So, and he had to deal with the people in the Dominican Republic. So Silvio says, "Well, let's go down to the DR so you can see the operation." So Silvio and I get on a plane. I go down to the Dominican Republic, and there's some videos on my, I have a Palomino Cigar YouTube account with very few because we never pushed it. But if you go to Palomino Cigars, Palomino, Palomino Cigars, and look it up on YouTube, you'll find 3 videos of me in the Dominican Republic, and they're a riot. So I designed the rings, the graphics. I did all the graphics work for the rings. I designed the box art for the boxes. We put together a whole line of cigars. We had like a couple of thousand boxes of cigars and bundles made. I fired this thing up, and it started to go. I was crazy on Instagram. I had thousands of followers on Instagram at the time, and making all these contacts, and people were buying cigars, and we're shipping cigars, and I wasn't making a lot of money at it, but it looks like it had potential, and I was smoking for free. And we'll work for food. Well, I was working for cigars. So we it starts going, and then Barack Obama decides that the Food and Drug Administration needs to regulate the premium cigar business. They turned the entire thing over to the FDA, who created a set of rules where you can't do it anymore. They decided that little children smoking $15 cigars is a huge problem in our country. And
well, you know how the kids are.
Yeah, we need to do. Well, the problem is they lumped the cigars in with the vaping. See?
Yes.
And the premium cigar industry has been fighting this tooth and nail ever since. Meanwhile, I decided I'm not putting any more time and energy into this, and have the world around me change yet again, and be unable to continue. So I decided, I just need to retire because I'm old enough. Fortunately, I still have skills, and I have a daughter who owns a public relations company in Tampa, who works for a lot of law firms doing all their PR work, and county governments. And she was actually a communications director for Pasco County for 5 years. So she has a public relations department, and she has a lot of needs in graphic design, brochures, flyers, mailers, door hangers, website design and development. I know all that stuff. I do all that. I learned all that through my years in the technology business. So, and it turns out, I don't know where I got it, but I have some skill as a graphics designer.
Very good.
And she told me she'd pay me a tremendous amount of money per hour to do this kind of work. And as her father, she loves it, because when she says, I need this, boom, it's the most important thing in the world to me. Unlike most
people, right?
I get it done in a week or two. Or
Yeah.
maybe next
At some
year.
point, I'll get it done for you.
So I started doing work for her, and I continue to today, and that supplements my meager Social Security and allows me to have a life. And although it's not the life that I used to have, it's a life without a lot of pressure. But I had laid off the hobby, the RC hobby. I had laid off. I have a closet full of airplanes and helicopters and things, but I had laid off the hobby in this 5 years that I was recovering from what had previously happened to me. And I started to, these drones look pretty cool.
Yeah, now hold that thought, because we're going to get into that. Okay. So basically, we've already gone through an hour, guys. Didn't it seem like just like that? And it really did. And we've been able to go through almost all your life. And I want to get into your drones, because I think you were flying. I want to get into that. I think Robert is going to come in, because I sent him a link.
Hey, no problem.
Were you, Robert?
I'll take a break for a minute.
Yeah, let's say hi to some people in the chat. Just get that done.
Put my name in here.
Hey, football.
Hello, all, he says. Wait a minute. I have to be in the right place.
Hey, Canadian Drone Hub. Ed. Yeah, I saw your political stuff, Ed. I'm looking. Bad boy. Anyway, we're looking at
And I don't know why I changed the picture back. I must have hit the wrong thing and changed it back to my son and me on the computer. So I'm sorry about that. I changed it back.
Tim, our UFO builder, is in the house. Eber just left. I think Drone Pool's probably listening, because he might be working. We got so much stuff going on. So, Robert, are you here?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave for just 1 minute, and can you just talk to everyone in the chat for a minute with Mitch? I'll be right back. Okay.
That was a question I was going to ask.
Hey, Robert,
I've watched your stuff, and I did not know your first name. Mitch. Rob.
Nice. And your channel is? Your channel is
Juneau County Droner.
Oh, you okay? Yeah, I've seen you on Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't keep, I got an excuse. I'm old, so I don't remember. See, I got an excuse. No, so where was I? Val, we were just about to start talking about how I got into drones, I guess.
About how you got into drones?
About how I got into drones.
Yeah, you said you seen that thing, you seen the drones, and you looked, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because I've been in RC my whole life.
Yeah.
All aspects of it, from regular airplanes to turbine powered jets to helicopters.
Did you get into 3D?
I flew a little. Yeah, that wasn't really my style. I could
Yeah.
do it. I could do it, and
Yeah.
but 3D helicopters wasn't my style either.
Yeah.
I could fly in that mode and do some loops and things, but
Yeah.
and hold it inverted a little bit. But this TikTok whipping around stuff, I'm too old for that. That's for the kids. And same thing with now that I'm getting into FPV, my style of flying drones is more relaxed freestyle, cinematic
very much
freestyle.
relaxed. Yeah.
I'm not interested in becoming Mr. Steel or flying,
Or anybody
80
like
miles an hour.
Centroid aerial images.
He's
becoming a master at FPV.
Yeah, I saw that. He's doing great too. Because
Yeah, he's doing a real good job.
Time and I haven't put as much time into it, but I was out there the other day with a 5-inch and doing power loops and stuff. It's coming back. The hardest thing for me was just getting used to the goggles. I could fly the drones line of sight with no problem because that's what I did for years, fly RC. But put those goggles on and try to figure out what the drone's doing from just the visual cues. Me a little while because I'm older, and you don't want to admit it, but as you get older, you don't learn things like that quite as.
Yeah, and Mark's trying to get me into flying FPV, and I'm kind of hesitant. I see Mark do it, and I see him do an excellent job at it, but I'm getting to that age where
you're a young man with a wonderful looking hairline, if I must say so myself.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. I work on it.
Yeah. And you got the beard. Yeah. What is it about us bald guys? The minute the hair goes way on top, it appears down here.
You got to have something. I guess
I've had this beard. Since I got out of the Army.
Oh yeah.
1970. Never shaved it off. Nobody alive today, not even my children, except my sister. My sister's the only living human being that has seen me without a beard.
See, now Mark's in the chat. He's saying, "Don't do it. Don't do it."
Get a simulator. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Get a
what
simulator.
What were you gonna do? It's all about the
FPV.
Ah.
FPV.
Okay, so I have a question. Before we go to drones, you said that you used to be overweight. In the picture with your son, you didn't. You look fine.
I all my life up and down. Most of the time I was thin. Because I told you about 40. When Atkins first came out, I started it, and then I would slip. Okay, I would slip, but here's me when I let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
That was me one time when I actually let it go, gained about 30, 40 pounds, and said, and I would reach a certain point where I said. That's it. I can't take it. And I would go right back on it and get back to being thin again. And I have good health to thank for that too, which is I'm very lucky.
So you're still doing that, right?
Oh, I live that way.
So they say that one of the problems with doing keto, doing Atkins, and I think Atkins is really where I'm at. But they say that there's no way to maintain it, to continue doing it.
Yeah, there is. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to be in ketosis. So the true keto diet is okay. But it's not I don't think it's sustainable. I did the deal with the test strips and all that. And I don't think that being in ketosis is good. I think that the keto diet look at the paleo diet. Okay,
Mhm.
the paleo diet is a combination of what you eat on the keto diet and stuff that has carbohydrates, but stuff that has low energy carbohydrates. And the paleo diet, the concept, I could lecture on diet for days. So if you
Yeah,
know,
most of us can,
when
right?
we get the deer in the headlights look, I'll stop talking. But I'll give you a couple minutes of what I've learned, because maybe it'll help somebody. There is a movie called The Perfect Human Diet. So it's on Amazon. Amazon Prime has it. Write this down. The Perfect Human Diet. With all the stuff I've read over all these years and all the different things I've tried and all of the wild harebrained diet schemes that I've heard of, this movie was made by the group that wrote the book on paleo, and it was narrated by a guy that died in his 40s, a jogger. And the movie is about his search for how to eat so he doesn't almost die. He actually died, and they brought him back. He had a heart attack running or something. And
Mhm.
it's the information in this movie is the most accurate, scientific, logical, reasonable reason why human beings should eat this way. And if you watch that movie and can find any fault in the logic or the science, then watch it again, because the second time around it'll become clear. And if you watch this movie, you'll learn more and realize there are things that you can eat, and there are things that you have to absolutely avoid. And a lot of the things that you have to absolutely avoid are what they're still billing as health food in this world.
Right. Right.
And there's a reason why we have such a health crisis of obesity and diabetes. And it's because of the bad advice given by those so-called experts over the last 40 years. Low fat. That was the worst thing that they could ever done.
Oh, you know what? I think that every time we trade synthetic food, right, for natural food, we're in trouble.
Well, that's the whole basis of paleo. Paleo means
Right.
Cavemen. Paleo is from the Paleolithic age. Eat like your ancestors ate. I learned that a long time ago. If the food that you're going to eat didn't exist 500 years ago, don't eat it. Don't eat it, because you've adapted to that food. That's what you evolved to eat, and your genetics haven't changed. Human genetics haven't changed that much in 500 years. So if your ancestors could find it and eat it, it's okay for you to eat. If it's not, don't. Anything, comes in a cellophane bag, except for maybe pork rinds. That's my holdover from
Pork
take
rinds.
tuna salad. Take some tuna salad with mayonnaise and glop it on a pork rind. Throw a cucumber on top. I mean, that's a paleo hors d'oeuvre right there.
Let me tell you, I grind my pork rinds up, and that's what I bread my chicken with.
Oh, I do it with fish. I fry fish with
right.
Yeah.
So that's a great staple. I can't do paleo because some of the fruits and what they do to me. So my body just doesn't accept.
Well, then you just don't eat those, but you can find, find
I
other
eat
things.
strawberries, I eat berries and stuff like that. But that's what I do.
Fruit is not a necessity. Some of the good vegetables are necessity, but you got to stay. And one of the things the paleo says is stay away from legumes.
Yeah.
That's beans. I mean, no beans. And they tell you why those things will kill you. I highly recommend The Perfect Human Diet. Is fascinating, and it sums up all the science and about everything that we've learned since they've started realizing that high carb, high sugar diets are not the answer.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing. If they say something is paleo compliant, keto compliant, Atkins compliant, look at what is actually in it, because that's not a given.
It's a fraud. They use these things as a fraud to sell things. And the biggest fraud of all is gluten-free. Gluten-free is another one of these things. It's nonsense. very few people are allergic to gluten. If you don't have celiac disease, you're not allergic to gluten. You can eat gluten, but don't eat the bread anyway. So,
You're
but
not
it's
eating bread anyway. See, I don't
free
eat it. I don't eat
and
starches of any kind.
don't get me started on how deceptive society, human race can be in our society, because we'll go on all night with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about fun stuff.
Okay. So, and the reason why I want to talk about that is a lot of our guys have been on keto or some forms of that. So I thought it was interesting that you've been able to do it for so many years.
A long
and
time.
maintain of course, your monkey hasn't been on it. He
Nah,
looks
but
like he's had too many bananas.
yeah, but he eats what his ancestors ate, and he is programmed to thrive on that, and we're not.
Look at his little face. He's like, don't you be trying to take away my monkey food. So,
Yeah. And I have this, I wrote this book almost 20 years ago. Now, I wrote it when I was 55 years old. It's called Taming the Beast Within. Okay. And it was a book. If somebody says, what's it about? I just say, reality. But one of the things in this book, I actually have 2 chapters on diet. And everything I said 20 years ago in those 2 chapters is exactly what they're saying in this movie I was telling you about. So I must have been onto something back then.
Okay, so let me just say hi to someone else. Hey, lovely Lisa, how you doing tonight? We are interviewing Mitch, old man in a drone.
Old guy.
I call him old man.
But that's not who I am.
He's old guy. Yes. So let me. I hope I put that in the title, old guy in a drone, and not old man.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, that's
good.
right. You did.
Good, because sometimes I get mixed up. So let's talk about some of your droning and when you started getting into that.
Okay. Well, I told you I've been a hobbyist all my life, and these things were fascinating me, but I just didn't want to spend. I just didn't want to spend the money, and so I started looking at YouTube videos on everything. I mean, and about a year and a half ago, I started looking at YouTube videos about all the different drones. And before I ever bought one, I knew everything there was to know about them, just from the sheer looking at the videos of how to work them, how to work the apps, the photography aspect of them. And I finally broke down, and I bought a Mavic Pro, the original Mavic Pro, and that was my first drone. But knowing me, the way, if you've gotten to know from my past how I am, I said, I'm going to make some money at this. So I studied and went out and got myself a Part 107 license, so I could be a big time commercial drone pilot. Now, if you looked at the first video on my channel is called "The Way We Used to Do It." Did you watch that?
Yep.
With the big helicopter with the camera. Well, that was before there was such a thing as a quadcopter. And back then, I was interested in aerial photography, and I was going to go into the business of aerial photography with that rig that I built. And it was a huge helicopter. It carried a gyro stabilized camera platform, and there was cost a lot of money. And it took 2 pilots, kind of like an Inspire, one to fly the camera, one to fly the helicopter. But there were no autopilots. There were no. Your typing is keeping the picture on you, Juno.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, go ahead. I'll just
Sorry about that.
Old guy.
That's okay.
I was trying to find your book.
Oh, it's on Amazon, I think.
Yeah, I found it.
So
I
you
found the
go
link.
ahead and make that typing noise if you're finding the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I forgot to
Finding
mute
the book
myself
to do
before
that. Okay.
starting to type.
Anyway, back 10, 12 years ago when I was doing this, you could make some money at it because there wasn't a drone photography business back then. You wanted aerial photography, you had to hire helicopters. You had to spend big bucks.
Right.
And with big camera equipment and everything. And at the time, a very good friend of mine who I flew RC with happened to be the head cameraman at one of the big TV stations in Orlando, and he used to invite me to go up in their news helicopter all the time with their amazing camera equipment. I'm talking, the stabilized cameras they got in these news helicopters cost a fortune, but they're unbelievable. You've seen them sit up there and zoom in on something 2 miles away, and it's, well, that's where we decided, the two of us, we wanted to try to do that, to do it with helicopters, and we could make some money. And unfortunately, back then, it wasn't a feasible thing to do because of the government and the FAA. They weren't going to put up with it. In order for us to actually do it legally, commercially, we actually had to have our equipment built as an experimental aircraft with an N number and all of that. Now, I already had the pilot's license, but still, and you couldn't fly it anywhere without getting approvals and clearances. It was just too much of a nightmare. And the FAA there were a couple of guys doing it, and the FAA was fining them and killing them and confiscating their equipment. And I said, nah, just be a hobby. So I never did it. But then when the drones came along, that old aerial photography bug kind of got lit up again. And so I bought a Mavic Pro and just started flying it and having a ball with it. Nice. And I went out to a home builder and he said, yeah, I'll do this for free because I need a practice. And I made a video of his house and all, but not much ever came of it. And then all of a sudden it exploded here in the past year. Just the number of, there's 4,000, I think, 107 pilots just in this county.
Wow.
And these guys are willing to, maybe in the state, Jim above and beyond was telling me that number, 3,000, 4,000, and I forget what area he said, but at any rate, everybody and their brother is, not only are they commercial, but they don't care. Why should I pay you? I got, my kid's got a drone. He can take the pictures for me, well, it's against the law. No, they're not going to bother me. Nobody cares, and what's happened is that you go out and the going rate that they're willing to pay for these things isn't worth doing, isn't worth the risk, isn't worth the time. So I decided, I'll do it. And I still do a couple jobs now and then through my daughter. Believe it or not, some of my daughter's customers, that Tai Chi thing that I did, that Tai Chi, yeah. That was a paid job that I did over there, and they're going to do another celebration coming up here this year, and I'm going to go over there and get paid again to film it. So those kind of things I'll do. But as far as making a living, I don't think it's there, and I don't want to stop anybody who has aspirations. I think that it is going to explode, but it's going to explode in more search and rescue commercial areas, things like that. The real estate market, you beat yourself to death, I think.
Yeah.
So no commercial stuff, and then but in watching all of these YouTube things, one of the guys I followed was Bill, the drone reviewer.
I love
Bill. Yeah,
I love.
He's the sweetest guy, and Bill all of a sudden one day said, "I have a fly-in over there at Sulphur Springs in Tampa," and I said, I have a daughter in Tampa, so why don't I go fly with the guys? And because it wasn't Bill's fly-in, it was a fly-in that was put together by Ken Dono, Original Dobo, and Billy Kyle.
Yep.
And Bill, the drone reviewer, is going to be there. And these are three guys whose videos I was watching to learn how to fly drones. I said, well, it'd be fun to meet them. And I know Billy Kyle's from Philadelphia. Yeah. So I emailed Billy. Let me see if I can find this picture here. I didn't know if I'd need any of these pictures, but where is it? Anyway, I emailed him this picture of Philadelphia that I shot. Here it is. That I shot when I was in high school or college, and that is the Philadelphia skyline. Can you see it?
I can. I can.
That was my car, and that was sitting up on the steps of the art museum in Philadelphia, at the top of the steps, not down at the street, because back in those days you could drive your car up there
Yes.
around the back. And if you noticed the skyline and you watched Philly's Mike's stuff, you noticed there were no buildings in the Philadelphia skyline, and that William Penn on top of City Hall was the tallest building in town, and they had a law back then. So I sent this picture to Billy Kyle. He went nuts. So I said, okay, I'm going to go meet these guys, and I drove over there and flew with them in Sulphur Springs, and met Bill, and he gave me his phone number, and then a couple months later, he invited anybody in the neighborhood, and I'm an hour and a half from there, but that's the neighborhood, to come to a restaurant in Lakeland and meet up, a place called Ford's Garage. So I went to that, and it was just me and one other guy, and Bill and Val. His wife's name is Val too.
I know.
And so we had a really nice dinner, and I said, hey, Bill, I could probably do this YouTube stuff. And he
Very
encouraged,
nice.
and he encouraged me to. So
Sure.
I said, yeah, I'm thinking about something like, old fart in a drone or something like that.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And where I thought of the name was, there's a moving company called Two Guys in a Truck. Have you ever heard of them? Well, Two Guys in a Truck. I said, hey, why not? Old guy in a drone. And so that's what I named my channel, and that's what I named my little aerial photography company too, Old Guy in a Drone. And I thought people might remember it. It might have a little brand identity. But and then I went and I started my little YouTube channel, and that was 5 months ago.
5 months ago?
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of your reviews and how you pick those.
Okay. Which ones?
So, well, let's start in the beginning. I think one of the first ones I saw, I mean, you did some reviews, but was your Osmo Puck.
Yeah. And I still don't have any, this channel is like the story of my life. I have no idea what direction it's going to go in. Lately it's taken off into the, FPV direction, but who knows? In 3 months from now, I could be a political commentary, for God's sakes. I sit here and scream at the TV. I could scream at the YouTube camera too. I try to stay away from politics in this arena or religion.
Yeah.
But there's
why
a
did
lot.
you pick the Osmo?
Well,
Why did you pick that to do your first review?
for the same reason that I was that I had to order the Mavic 2 Pro the day they were having right there while they were having the thing up in New York announcing it, because I thought it was cool, and I can't resist new stuff. When Apple came out with an iPad, I was in line at the Best Buy the day they released them to get one of the first ones. I mean, I'm like that. I have no willpower when it comes to gadgets. So I said, that is the coolest thing. Where can I get one? And I saw Best Buy had a couple of them in stock here on the day they released them. So I put my order in. I said, I'll pick it up at the store. So I put my order in, and I went down to the store because they didn't send me the email that said, come get it. And the store down here in Melbourne, we don't have it. I said, on the website, it says in stock. Well, that was wrong. We don't have any here. I said, well, where do they have some? And they said, well, they looked in computers. They got 2 of them in Vero Beach, which is about 40 miles south of here. I said, tell them to hold one. I'm on my way. So
If you want it, you want it. There's no doubt.
down to Vero Beach, got the stupid thing, got it home, and started playing with it. And I said, you know what? I got to do something with this YouTube channel of mine. And this is new, and people might be interested in it. So I'll do the review. And I did the review, my first thoughts of it, and it wasn't that well. I don't think it was well done. I break all the rules when it comes to YouTube videos. I'll tell you who follows the rules. That's Bill the Drone Reviewer. Bill does exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put the subject of your video in the main title. You're supposed to say that within the first few words of your video, because YouTube actually, their algorithms actually listen to what you say, and it has to match up with the keywords. I don't care.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, Bill is just, he's just professional from the word go. I mean, when I watch his stuff, I'm
Yeah,
always impressed.
he does it that way. And sometimes I watch Bill and I go, lighten up a little, Bill.
I love him. I love him. So you got the Osmo, and you were outside. You were taking pictures.
Yeah.
I thought it looked really good. I couldn't tell.
I'll tell you what happened. What happened was I bought this thing and it cost a lot of money. And I found out that before I could use it, it wasn't ready for prime time. It didn't have Wi-Fi. It needed the Wi-Fi. It needed the external mic. It needed this. It needed that. The original firmware it came with has come a long way, and I probably would have one now. But what happened was the novelty of it wore off, and I wanted a vlogging camera. The novelty of it wore off in a couple of days, and
I hate that. I hate when that happens.
I said, you know what? I'm not in love with this thing, and there's a lot. There was no place to mount a tripod to it. You could. It was absurd. You needed all these gadgets. I said, you know what? I think the GoPro Hero 7 is closer to what I need than this. So I took it back to Best Buy and swapped it for the Hero 7. And then and that's when I started doing my reviews and stuff on the Hero 7. And I love the Hero 7. And now DJI is going to do it again to me. They're coming out with this new thing. Oh.
So, but we're not sure what it is, are we?
No, it's an action camera. Yeah, because there's enough guys have got them in advance. They get them a month early, and they tell them, you sign a thing, you're not going to tell anybody about it, but they're out there.
It's definitely an action cam.
Yeah, it's an action cam, and it's the same size as a GoPro, and already everything in the world is a GoPro killer.
Yeah.
Or a Mavic killer, or a Phantom killer, or this killer, that killer. I don't know. It's all marketing. And it's coming, isn't it, tomorrow, the 15th? Isn't that what?
Yes. Someone said something about it might be today. They would all the guys would know what it was, and they'd be ready to send everything out.
Somebody slipped. I remember when the Mavic 2, there was some guy on YouTube that put something out a day before he was supposed to. I bet you he never gets another deal from them again. But and hey, whatever it is, it is. And one thing that I've noticed, that I've learned about it's kind of maybe helped me temper my desire for all this new stuff, is just watching the furor and the hubbub and the explosion of YouTube stuff over a camera. It's a camera.
And I could see it if it was the Phantom 5. I could see if it was another Mavic Pro 3.
Even then, these things have reached, like cell phones. Cell phones, when they first came out, the smartphones, from each new model, there were quantum leaps in things.
There was.
We have now reached almost the top of the curve, where the changes, people are saying, I don't see a reason to spend $1,500 on a new one that doesn't do much more or any faster than my old one did. So they're and the drones, I think, are reaching that same point. You get a Mavic 2 Pro or Mavic 2 Zoom that you can fly 5 miles away, that's stable as a tripod in the sky, and with a 30-minute battery life. What else do you need?
That's what you think. And then they come out with something even better, and you were at the store, my friend.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, because but see, I admit it. I know
buy them, but I like them.
But I know who I am. Val.
Right.
I have many faults, and I will readily admit to all of them.
That the iPad Pro came out, the 12-inch iPad Pro, and I thought, okay, my eyes are older. These are reading glasses, right? I'm buying from the dollar store, and I got it because I thought I could see it easier. and I had to pay that off. I have the iWatch 4, so I could do that hard
They
thing.
gotcha, didn't they?
Right? Because but if I could afford to buy a different line of product too, I'd buy both. I love gadgets. There's nothing
Same here.
more fun to me than gadgets.
Well, you have to like gadgets for this stuff. I've always loved gadgets, and it's hard for me not to have a new a cell phone. But I'm at the point now where I can't see.
Right.
I saw a big improvement from the Mavic 2 from the original one, but we also gave up a few things that they're finally bringing back in with firmware.
Yeah.
Hey, Jerry, how are you? Jerry, Drone Obsessed.
We have I have the iPhone 6 Plus S, whatever. But I did the same thing. I thought, why am I going to buy another one? Until this thing dies, it was enough of a price that I'm not going to go on, to the next level. I just don't want to. I don't want to spend that money. I'd rather get this guy, which I got from my children. I want to put whatever I make on YouTube back into my channel. So
And that mic sounds great.
I
Big improvement over what you
Because-
had before.
yeah, because you are so much more an expert in this than what I am. So I was hoping to ask you about that. Also, when I was watching your reviews, you are really good at that. Do you know what I'm saying? You go
Well,
out,
thank you.
pictures of what your Hero 7 is producing for you, how to put it together, why it has an adapter, because I didn't know they had to have an adapter for the mic.
For the external mic, yeah, that's a big bone of contention with them. But DJI is following suit, doing the same thing.
And I tell people when I do interviews, I always watch as much as I can of all the videos, and I was thoroughly impressed with your reviews. Thoroughly impressed.
Thank you. I didn't do a lot of them. The first thing you remember that little gizmo I made for the back of it to keep the Osmo clamped to the phone. I mean, I noticed that's one of the things that bothered me about it the most. It was that the fact that the phone just hung on there. And before anybody even came out with an adapter, I figured out how to make one that worked and got a few views on that. But the my star video that has 13,000 some odd views was the vlogging rig with the GoPro. And I don't know why. I don't know what I did to get that thing on so many people's recommended.
I'll tell you what you did. Let me help you with that because I know what I like when I watch a video. When you came with your GoPro and your setup for the GoPro, that is something anybody could do if they had someone telling them how to do it.
But there's so many videos that said the same. I came up with a little change or a wrinkle on what 200 other guys came up with. There was no secret about these cases. Just the way they were putting them together was unusable. So I figured out how to make it usable. And I still had haters. I still had haters.
Of course.
That's no good.
GoPro,
Yeah, oh yeah.
We're first putting it on the top. I thought, what a great idea. Great idea, because it held it in place. And then when you got the compartment where you could slip it in the bottom. And the fun thing about yours is, guys, you got to go watch this thing. You're putting it in one side. You go, yeah, this is the side. And you look and go, oh, yeah, that's not the side. So take two and you're putting it in the right side.
Oh, I had fun with that video and I made all kinds of mistakes and things were flying. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go for the comedy here and just leave all of this crap in there and just make myself look like some kind of bumbling old fool. And I laughed at it. And I enjoy self-deprecating humor. I'll make fun of myself before anybody else will, and I'll get a laugh out of it. So I like that. I can't take stuff that doesn't matter that much seriously anymore.
Right,
now. I can make a big deal out of something that really, in the overall scheme of things, makes a big difference.
It gave a very human side to what you were doing, because I was saying, even though your reviews are really good, they weren't, you're not perfect. You know,
No,
you're showing us that. You're going, take one, take two. I think one of them had 4 takes.
4 takes. Yeah.
I was laughing because I thought that would be me. I'm like, okay, well, no, let's okay, so yeah, no. I'm still working on trying to get this, and this is a 5. How that works. So
And you know what surprised me about that is I got a lot of comments on that video, and people told me that the part that they liked the best was at the end when I showed them how I actually photographed it, how I, like a studio kind of tour where I showed them my little light box and all that, and they actually wrote in the comments that was they had never thought of that. That was very useful.
so let me ask you this. What setup are you using right now?
Okay, right now. You ready?
I am. Show me.
That's not it.
That's not it. But that's a
not it.
nice car.
That's the car.
I
Hold on a
I
second.
would have felt so cool in that car.
Where did it go? Why is it not? There it is. Okay.
Oh,
This
wow.
is the setup that I even got. If you even on this screen, I even have the chat in there. But
My God, that is so like professional studio.
this is the setup that I have, and if I pull out of the way here, you can see that I have this is a tablet here.
Yeah.
Let me turn
There I
it
am.
on. This is my sound effects. You see my finger? Is it big enough? You see?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is my sound effects tablet right there. This right over here is called an Elgato Stream Deck, and it works OBS, and it has all these push buttons. So if I push a button on here, it'll change the scene, and I have like 13 different scenes set up here using different cameras and different sources and backgrounds. So you can just push the button
Oh my God.
and
I saw
change
one of those.
the scene. This gizmo right over here, where my hand is right now, is a mixer. That's an audio recorder. It's a 6-channel mixer, and that's where all the mics and all the other stuff is plugged in. So if I want to bring and then over here on the right hand side, I got a little cell phone that's actually playing music, and it's being piped into here. So if I turn this up, you'll hear the music will just be thrown right in with the same line as the microphone. The sound effects come in here, the mic volume and all that. And this interfaces with the computer by USB. So it's kind of just like a little poor man's studio here. That big monitor in front of me is a 43-inch television set, high def television set. That's where Bill, the drone reviewer, got that idea from me. He thanked me for that too. I said, hey, he said he's going to get a new computer. I said, I just got one, and here's what I did. So he got pretty much the same setup that I did. And that's it. And then behind me is a green screen. You saw that when I first came on. So if I were to turn off if I were to go back to my main screen there, and I have a little remote control here for my lights. So if I turn off all the lights, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a green curtain. Well, it is pretty dark, isn't it?
It is very dark.
There's
like the monkey and the screen you have behind you. I think it looks really great. So
what I did with this, and let me see here. If I go here and get rid of the monkey, let's get rid of the monkey. There's the monkey's gone. And if I get rid of the sky and trees, which is a video loop that I actually shot outside of my house. I just put a camera and shot a 5-minute loop of sky and trees. And then then I can get rid of the open door. And then all I got left is my street sign. So if I get rid of the street sign, I get rid of the street sign, and then I can do all kinds of strange things with it. I can put myself in front of lights.
oh, there you go. There you go.
I can put myself let's see, let's do this here. I can put myself in the Middle East. So I can change, and this is what Mark is doing, Centroid too, using the same thing. I can put any kind of background graphic behind me. And I mean, if I wanted to, if I decided I wanted my monkey there with me in Jerusalem, I can bring the monkey back.
Oh, look, monkey. He's looking around going, what the?
Where am I? Or if I decide I'd rather be in Miami Beach, I could be in Miami Beach.
Hi, Chris.
And there's Miami is now out the window, see, instead of the trees. So this graphic with the door basically has a transparency here. So any other graphic I put behind it, it will show through the door,
Oh, nice.
which is kind of cool. So it lets you do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, there's some fire.
Well, I think we know where you are.
Yeah, that's where I belong anyway.
Oh, well, now.
Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should get my door and my sky back here.
I've
Let's do
seen
that.
fire and I've seen rain.
There we are. We're back.
I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end.
But you can do some amazing things. And then what I did when I showed you the picture of me in front of that's just whatever's shown on that. I'm just displaying a monitor and have me down in the corner, and I can show the same thing with or without me.
Hey,
you know,
Mitch,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Sure.
What kind of car is that?
it's
Is
an
that
MG, 1966 British Racing Green MGB.
MGB, yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
That was my car. And when I was in the Army, I had enough rank where they actually shipped that over to Germany for me. I drove all over Europe in that thing. So ask me if I hated the Army. No, I had a good time in the Army.
Can I ask what part of Germany you were in?
No problem. When I first went over there, I was in a town called Rothwesten, which is north of Frankfurt, about 70, 80 miles in Hesse. And I was there for, I guess, about 6 or 8 months, and they transferred me to Augsburg, which is in Bavaria, about 30 miles from Munich and the Oktoberfest, and Salzburg and the Alps and Garmisch-Partenkirchen, where they had the Olympics in '39. And what a gorge! Right near the Neuschwanstein Castle, where Disney used as the model for their castle. And I was down there for over a year, and that was fabulous. I would take 3-day passes and drive to other countries, to Belgium, to Switzerland, to France, to Holland. And I followed the Grand Prix races around and took that little car and slept in it, which was very uncomfortable, and went to the different Grand Prix races all over Europe on the weekends. So I had a ball. I'd have hated to come home.
I spent time in Heidelberg.
Heidelberg's a beautiful,
and it
beautiful
was
town. Beautiful town.
gorgeous. Up into the Black Forest. It was, I'm telling you, what a fun place.
It's
because that was in the 80s.
the 80s. Did you go to Baden-Baden?
I think we went through Baden-Baden on
That's
the
the
way
Black Forest. Yeah, Baden-Baden.
went up into the Black Forest, and my dad said he stopped, and there were these people making rotisserie chickens, and there was beer, and it was in a park, and he goes, "Come on, let's go." And I go, "Dad, isn't this a family thing? We can't just go in." And he goes, "Oh, no, come on. I'll pay for the chicken and the beer. And come on." And oh, what fun.
It was a great country. Baden-Baden is a beautiful, it means baths. It's a beautiful town for people go there for health retreats. And they have a casino in Baden-Baden is the casino that's in the James Bond movies.
Oh, yeah.
That's the casino where they shot those things. And interestingly enough, the casino is owned by the von Richthofen family.
Ah.
And Baron von Richthofen was the Red Baron in World War I.
Okay.
And his family own that casino. in Baden-Baden. But no, it's great. In Heidelberg, I remember taking a river cruise in Heidelberg. They have these big river cruise boats, which are really nice. I went over there. I went back on a vacation for 2 weeks to all the places where I was stationed in Germany, and rented a car and stayed in these converted castle hotels, and it was a tremendous vacation back when I had some money.
Right. That's a beautiful place to be. We sat on a hill before I left. I was going to the Middle East, but before I left there, we sat on a hill and they did this illumination of the castle like it was on fire to denote when, some historic thing happened, it was on fire. So it was just so much fun. So let me quickly, because we only got about 9 minutes left.
Time flies, doesn't it?
I swear it's gone so fast. So where do you want to see your channel going? What do you see happening?
Well, that's an interesting question, and it depends on what time of the day you ask me,
Right.
or what day of the week.
Mhm.
I honestly, I think we all want to be appreciated for what we do on YouTube, but I don't want to be laughed at. I don't want to, unless it's because I'm trying to be funny. I don't want to be anybody to say, "What the hell is this guy doing?"
Yeah, you want to be laughed with.
You want to be laughed with, yeah, and you don't want to do things that people lose interest in, and that happens to so many, because after all, how much can we talk about ourselves? How much do we really have to say? Now, you and Roger have a niche, and your shows are different each time because of the fact that you're interviewing somebody different, which gives you a serial reason for doing what you do. Roger gets a flow of new people constantly through, and you need that, because I like to think that I'm kind of a benchmark of most people, that you see the same thing over and over again. You say, what else is on?
Oh,
Yeah, but I think that you and Roger have a good thing, and Andrew at Pusa, he's got a great thing going there, because there's constantly new people coming in, and people want to grow their channel, and
NRT.
so I've asked myself, why do I want to grow my channel? Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication, a lot of time. What's in it for me? There are some things, and the first thing, that the benefit that I've had out of this has been the community and great people. Great
Right.
people. I mean, let's face it. I never would have ever met Mike, Philly Mike, or Mike Roche, or everybody's named Mike, or you, or
I know
Roger.
there's like something weird about that.
Yeah, or Jim Above and Beyond, who lives right down the street from me here, and or any people. And I have been pretty isolated, and on purpose. I've been keeping to myself, and this is a great part of it. And I hope that that people still want to come and see me, but I don't think for me that to be a posted on a daily basis and live streams every day for 3 hours. I don't want it to become my life. I want to have something to talk about. So I'm going out and I'm learning FPV. So, when I come up with something that I think might help somebody, I'll post a little video about it. Or here's how here's how a beginner, here's what I think, based on how I did it, is a good way to do it. Because everybody's different. But you can't be, it's very hard to be unique unless you're just a freak on YouTube. You know what I mean? Unless you are just got 4 arms and 3 legs and 6 eyes. And or you've got hot looking bikini pictures as your thumbnails, because those things, when you look at them, 6.5 million views.
Right.
You know, the Swedish pole vaulting team, and what they have is a picture of a hot looking girl from the rear in a bathing suit with a pole. 6.5 million views. You know, come on, guys. I don't have that. I'm sorry. Or the clickbait. I don't want to do clickbait. I hate clickbait. I hate all of that kind of deception. You know, stay tuned. The one thing that's going to kill you by tomorrow afternoon. Find out what it is. News at 11. You know, and then you watch and they never tell you. You know, or they wait. They wait to tell you. They tell you at the very end. You know, because it's all about watch time. And if you don't think commercial broadcasting is all about watch time, they make YouTube look like amateur hour. And I read somewhere that there's a billion hours of YouTube videos watched every day. 1 billion hours. And somebody said if you started watching them today, it would take you 100,000 years to watch those billion hours. So,
oh sure,
yeah. I don't think I'm that interesting or have that much to say that people couldn't wait to the next time they saw me. So I decided that you know, I've got 600 and some subscribers now, and they trickle in and they trickle out. And if I'm going to do the live stream on Thursday, like you to stop by. Love to have you. You're welcome in the panel too. A couple hours of just BS, and I show some of the new stuff that you know, the video of some of the new stuff that I'm shooting or working on, and Mike Roach and sometimes Spike comes in, or Philly Mike, and you know, it's like a meeting with the guys. We go for a couple hours before Ken Hearn comes on. And Ken Hearn comes on at 8. And a couple of times we went a little longer, but I'll keep doing that until people stop watching it. And that's, if you remember my video, the first video, I said, as long as people want to watch me, I'll do it. And if not, I said, I'll go do something else. Remember that line? That was in my first video. If they don't like it, I'll do something else. That's been my attitude about this whole thing.
All kinds of things, and you're good to your word, because there's nothing you won't try.
Well, within reason.
Within reason. True. Yeah. True. And what a fascinating life you're leading, because that's there was a time when you worked for a company for 40, 50, 60 years and you retired from it. And that's just how that rolled out. But that's not what it is anymore.
This world is not like that. In fact, the only people today that have that kind of life anymore are government employees.
Right. And that's about it.
You don't work for the government. You don't have the big retirement with the big health insurance. And that's because the government doesn't have to make a profit. They just take it away. So, but there's politics again.
Yeah. And we try to stay away from that only.
And it's good to be in a no politics zone, because, you know, I can get pretty passionate about some of the crap that's going on today. And because I see it for what it is, all of it. I gave up being a naive kid a long time ago.
Right. So guys, we are at the end, but I do want to put it out to the group. Is there anything that you don't know that you want to know? Within reason, of course. Is there anything you'd like to ask Mitch about what he's doing? Because he and I, before the thing started talking about action cameras, because I want an adapter so I can do a mic on this one. But it turns out they don't have them anymore. And with DJI coming out.
Oh, they have them. They're just out of stock. You just got to order them. They'll come in, back ordered. It'll come in a couple of weeks. But it's $40 or $50. And I would wait to see what the new cameras, is going to be.
That's one thing that got me with the Osmo Pocket is the audio adapter, a little USB-C to a 3.5, $35. I couldn't believe it.
Is that bad?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
You could spend $600 on that thing, but by the time you get all the gadgets,
I mean, I love my Osmo Pocket, but the audio adapter is just it's ridiculous.
And the same thing with the GoPro. It's ridiculous. Hey, thanks for the compliment, Mark from Centroid. I appreciate it. I don't know what food I gave you for thought, but you're doing great. Listen, man, you're doing great with the FPV stuff. Keep at it. You're gonna be Mr. Steele here pretty soon.
Oh my God, Mark, yeah. I gotta say, I love Mark. He was on Thursdays now. He's taking a little time off, then he's coming back. You are, because I'll chase you down.
Yeah, Mark, I need to know your schedule.
Because we love to really,
Sidekick needs to know.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with watching crazy every once in a while, but you don't want it to be your everyday meal.
Yeah, and I went hot and went hot and heavy for a little while, and then realized that it takes the fun out of it. And I made that promise to myself: is if this stuff ever stops being fun, I'm not going to do it. Why would you? It has to be fun. It has to be some reason to work this hard, because editing these things and doing these it's a lot of work. You know that. It looks easy, right, Val?
It does. But you have to remember, you have to be able to keep that conversation going. Sometimes they're easier than others, right? I was on with Russ last night in Pusa and them on my channel, and we laughed so bad that I watched it over again after I got off. I was like, was it really as funny as I thought it was? I wasn't sure.
I keep changing. I start typing. What happened? I start typing while I want to type in the chat, and then it ends up changing the picture over, because it's using a keyboard command in OBS, because that's where the mouse was. But I wanted to tell Mark from Centroid. He said that he's building his second 5-inch one now, and I wanted to tell him, eat your heart out, Mark. I just got an Armaton Marmot frame that I'm going to do a custom build with. So
Armaton
Marmot just came here today from China. It's gorgeous. I mean, this stupid frame is $100 just for the frame. Yep. Now you got to buy all the other. I'm going to put an F7 controller in it.
But that's
all the best stuff. I want to have one with all the best stuff in it.
If it breaks, they'll send you another one.
Yeah, that's the frame that's
for life.
Guaranteed for life. And I'm going to do some videos on my custom build, because I built the Tyro 99, and I've been flying that, and it's great. It flies well. And then I actually got myself a Hawk 5, because everybody said, but I've only flown that line of sight. I haven't flown the Hawk 5 FPV yet. But the hobby for me, the RC hobby, was not so much about the flying as it was about building the model airplanes. I loved the workshop time. And unfortunately, drones aren't that much work to build. You could spend 6 months building an airplane, but you throw a drone together in an hour, and it's just
have it flying by 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not enough workshop time. So I may actually have to start building some model airplanes again. I'll show you, Val. I know you want to get out of here. I'll show you a picture here of where is it? Where is the one? This it? Yeah, this is an airplane that a model jet that I built, that I competed with in
F-100.
F-100, yeah, I think 7 feet long. Has a turbine jet engine, goes 250 miles. It took me a year to build that airplane. It's an absolute scale model of the real deal, and I competed with it. And that was a year's worth of building on that thing, and it gave me an excuse to get out in the garage and work and paint. Every rivet on that thing is where it belongs, and that's the kind
I've done with something like that, and I would be scared to fly it.
Well, I did. I was scared to fly it, and I flew it, and I flew it for 3 years in competition. And right after the third year, I only flew it I flew it very rarely, other than the scale competition. But the right after the third year that I flew it, you could only fly in this Top Gun tournament the same airplane 3 times. Yeah. Some guy in England offered to buy it. I sold it to him. I said, "Here, you got a chance to get my money out of it to take it."
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But that, these are this one here. These are some of the airplanes that I used to build in paint. I'll show you a few of the. There's me. Here's another one. And doing the paint jobs on these things was like these car guys that paint the hot rods. You know, this was all automotive paint, and we used graphics cutters to cut the paint masks to do things like the checkerboards and the lettering, and it was a great hobby, and I miss it. And that's why the FPV is why I'm enjoying it so much, because I'm getting a little bit of that stuff back.
No,
Anyway, that's me showing off.
no, but that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mitch. Hey, listen, guys, in the chat, I know you had a lot of choices today, because I was trying to tell all the choices you had last night, but I almost lost it because, you know, it seems like everyone's on live streaming recently. But I did want to say thank you for choosing the channel tonight and coming on and supporting us and our talk with Mitch. He's fascinating. Nothing I think this man cannot do, which is very, very cool, because I do lots of things too, but I can't do them. But Mitch, I want to talk to you again at some point about the Elgato and the other tech stuff that you're using, because I was looking at the Elgato and the other thing. So maybe at some point we'll have a chance to talk.
Listen, I'm free all the time. You work, I work at my own leisure here. That's the nice thing about doing the kind of work that I do. At any time you want to Skype in or Skype together or call me, I got your number, you got mine. Please, anytime. Consider me a friend.
Very good, because my work week starts tomorrow and it goes all the way through Saturday, and Sunday is when I have Rogers in my live stream at night. Then Mondays, it's a good day for me. So
Anytime. And listen, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So much fun. Thank you for sharing, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, come on to my stream one of these days. Thursday night, 6 o'clock. I'll put you on the invite list. So when I send an email out, you'll get an invite. If you can make it, fine. If not, no pressure.
So nice. Okay. Right. Paul Murray Night Train. Robert, thank you for being the mod, guys. Thanks, everybody. Mike Roach, Furball, Gary Hadley, all of you, and even the guys I didn't mention. I so appreciate you being here, and I will absolutely talk to you soon. I love you. You know it. Bye.